You ever feel like you're just not asking for things the right way? Or maybe that the people in charge are way more focused on the tiny rules than on what actually matters? Well, in this explainer, we're going to see how a text that's 2,000 years old tackles these exact problems in one seriously action-packed chapter. So let's just dive right. So, the whole thing kicks off with a question we've all asked at some point. How do you ask for something and, actually get it? It's a timeless question, and believe it or not, this ancient chapter has a surprisingly direct and maybe even a little shocking answer for us.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with a blueprint for how to ask for things. Then we'll get a front row seat to a public showdown over power. After that, we'll dig into this demand for a spectacular sign, turn the focus inward to the light within, and wrap it all up with a pretty blistering warning to the religious elite of the day.
Okay, so how does this chapter tackle that big question of how to ask for things? Well, it all starts with a pretty simple request from Jesus' followers. They just say, "Teach us to pray." And the answer they get? It's basically a masterclass in direct, authentic communication. So Jesus lays out this really simple 4-step blueprint. And what's cool is that it's not about elaborate rituals or fancy words. It's about getting straight to the heart of what matters. You start with purpose, then you move to provision, forgiveness, and guidance. And you notice the focus here, right? It's all about what you truly need, not just what you want. And to really hammer this point home, he tells this great story. I want you to picture this. It's the middle of the night. A guest shows up unexpectedly, and you've got zero food in the house. So what do? You go over to your friend's place, wake him and his entire family up just to ask for some bread. I mean, talk about an inconvenient and audacious request. And here's the twist. Jesus says the friend doesn't get up because he's such a great buddy. Nope. He gets up because of your shameless audacity. The original Greek word is even stronger. It suggests this bold, almost shameless persistence. Now, in a culture that was built on honor and knowing your place, this is a totally radical idea. The takeaway is pretty clear. When what you're asking for is really important, persistence can trump polite. So this whole idea gets boiled down into this famous threefold promise. And notice the verbs here: ask, seek, knock. They're all active. The message couldn't be clearer. Don't just sit around and wait. Your engagement, your persistence, that's a fundamental part of the whole process. And then the chapter just takes this sharp, dramatic turn. The quiet teaching moment is over, and it erupts into a full-blown public showdown. Jesus performs an exorcism, the crowd is amazed, but his critics immediately pounce. The focus shifts instantly from private instruction to a very high-stakes public debate. Now, this is where the conflict gets really fascinating. See, Jesus' opponents, they don't deny that he has power. They can't. So instead, they try to discredit its source. They accuse him of working with Beelzebub, the prince of demons. But Jesus just flips it right back on them, claiming his power comes directly from the finger of God. So the debate isn't about what he did, it's all about why he could do it. To argue his point, Jesus uses this brilliant analogy. First, he paints a picture of complete security. You've got a strong man, he's armed to the teeth, and he's guarding his own house. Everything inside is safe, it's secure, it's under his control. This strong man, well, he represents the existing power structure. In this case, the forces of evil. And then comes the punchline. Someone stronger shows up, attacks the guard, overpowers him, and takes everything. The message is just unmistakable. Jesus is saying, I'm not working for the strong man. I'm the stronger one who's come to take him down. This isn't just a clever comeback. It's a bold-faced declaration of his own divine authority. But of course, his critics are not convinced, so they demand something else. They want a sign from heaven, a miracle on demand. They're not looking for a sermon, they're looking for a show. And Jesus is just not going to play that game. He tells them the only sign they're getting is the sign of Jonah. And you're probably wondering, what on earth does that mean? Well, he's pointing them back to their own history. The people of Nineveh, they repented just from hearing Jonah's preaching. The Queen of the South traveled for hundreds of miles just to hear Solomon's wisdom. His point is so sharp here. If you're really looking for a sign, you don't need a spectacle from the sky. The wisdom you're looking for is standing right in front of you. So after completely dismantling the crowd's demand for some flashy external sign, Jesus does something really clever. He pivots. He turns the entire focus inward, suggesting that true spiritual insight doesn't actually come from the outside world at all, but from within you. He uses this powerful metaphor: your eye is the lamp of your body. Think about it like the lens on a camera. If the lens is clean and focused, the picture you get is crystal clear. But if that lens is smudged up with things like greed or envy, everything looks dark and distorted. The message is pretty simple, really. Before you go trying to fix the world around you, you better check your own perspective first. And this whole theme, this clash between inner darkness and inner light, this idea of a corrupt perspective, it all builds to this incredibly explosive climax. A Pharisee, who's a member of this prominent religious group known for being super strict about the law, invites Jesus over for a meal. But when Jesus skips a simple ceremonial hand-washing ritual, oh boy, it ignites one of the most intense confrontations in the entire text. And Jesus does not hold back, not one bit. He calls them out for obsessing over the tiny details of religion, like tithing, which is giving a tenth of your stuff, right? Right down to the last herb in your garden, while completely ignoring the things that actually matter, justice and love. Then he goes right after their motives. He accuses them of basically using religion as a tool for social climbing, chasing public praise and the best seats in the house, instead of genuine private devotion. Wow, this is a devastating metaphor. In that culture, if you touched a grave, you became ritually unclean. So what Jesus is saying here is brutal. He's saying on the surface, you guys look totally fine, but underneath, you're full of corruption and death. And you're making everyone who comes near you spiritually unclean, and they don't even know it. So when a legal expert tries to object, Jesus just doubles down. He calls them out for creating this whole oppressive system of religious rules for everybody else, rules that they themselves don't even follow. I mean, it is just a blistering takedown of their hypocrisy. And then comes this brilliant rhetorical move. He points out the incredible irony of them building these beautiful tombs for the very prophets their ancestors killed. He's essentially saying, you're no different. You praise the dead messengers of God while you reject the living one who's standing right here in front of you. And then he delivers the final, devastating blow. The very people who were supposed to be the guides to spiritual truth have instead become gatekeepers. They've taken the key to knowledge, locked the door, and basically thrown the key away. Not only do they refuse to go in themselves, but they're actively blocking the path for anyone else who's trying to get in. And so, this 2,000-year-old chapter leaves us with a question that feels incredibly relevant for our own time. If that key to knowledge exists today, who's holding it? And maybe more importantly, who are they keeping out?